Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the International Agenda presented by the BJ Show. As always, I am your host, Aidan Barry. We have got a lot of action from sport across the world this week, plenty of title races wrapping up across the globe, and playoff action as well. So we are going to get straight into it, starting now. As I said, we have plenty to cover this week. We have NBA playoff action. We have the Premier League title race is pretty much decided. The Football League Championship is the two teams automatically promoted are in. We have football from all over the world as well to cover. We have F1. We have the NFL draft preview. And we will be starting with the NHL Playoffs. It is finally playoff time in the NHL, and I am going to go through each series as we are. Most series are 2 games in or 3 games in with the Colorado vs. Dallas series. This is being recorded on the night of the 24th of April 2025, so keep that in mind while you are listening in. But we will start with our first series, which is between the first place team out of the Atlantic, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They play the first wild card, the Ottawa Senators. And this series, as it stands, is looking all Toronto. They are 2-0 up. They have played absolutely far and away better hockey than the Senators in the first 2 games. The series now will go back to Ottawa, and they will have their chance to get some games back and get some games on the board as we go through that series. But Toronto are looking like a very strong team. They finished this season with 108 points. And, you know, that is a very, very strong year. Anytime you can hit that 100, 105 mark, you're looking to be one of the big teams of hockey for the year. So I would have to say right now that is going to be a Toronto series. I'll give Ottawa a game. I'm probably going to say that Toronto does take it in 5. So Toronto will go there 4-1. In that top section of the draw, the second match of the series, of the playoffs, is between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. And this is a very, very interesting matchup. This is the other 2 teams out of the Atlantic. The Atlantic second place team, the Lightning, and the Panthers, the third place team in the Atlantic. So the first game, this game has only been played in 1 game so far, and it was the Florida Panthers winning comfortably 6-2 in the end. Florida, obviously a very, very strong team. Still very, very powerful attacking lineups, great defensive pairings as well across the board as we go down their list. Florida looking like a team who could take this series quite comfortably at this point, but I'm not going to count out the Bolts just yet. The Bolts, one of these teams, I think, you know, when we look at the numbers saying the Bolts are higher in the Atlantic than the Panthers, I think that'll tell at some point. I think game 1 was a bit of an anomaly from a scoring perspective, and I think that, you know, the Bolts definitely are going to have a chance to come straight back into this series, and hopefully they do get that second game, so we have a real nice series as we head through the playoffs. Our next series in the first round of the NHL playoffs is the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. Washington, the winners of the Met, and the Canadiens, the second wildcard team out of the Eastern Conference. So, as things stand, 2 games have been played. Both games won in very, very, very close fashion by the Caps. Canadiens, a very young team, a very hungry team. A team who I think are going to be dangerous when they do get back on home ice in the next couple of games as they play to keep this series alive. It is a best of 7, but I think if Washington do get that game 3 in Montreal, it's pretty much all said and done. This is a real series where we have the experience of the Caps against the young blood of the Canadians. And I think at this point, the young boys are doing very, very well to get into this contest as it is. Lane Hudson's doing really well. And Cole Caulfield is doing really, really well in this series to keep the Canadians in it, along with guys like Patrick Laine as well doing a great work. So the Capitals obviously led by Ovechkin. He was a big player in Game 1. He got 2 goals and the overtime winner in Game 1. And Game 2, a little bit more of a quiet night from Ovechkin. But again, a very strong night from the Capitals overall. Their forward lines working quite well, through the playoffs, and they dominated, the Eastern Conference. They have Met 1, and I'm pretty sure they were East 1 as well. So they will be one of these teams. They were East 1, so they had 111 points on the year. So they're a team who can't be messed with. But the Montreal Canadiens, very young, very hungry, hanging in there at this point. I am going to say that this series probably does go 6 games. So I'll have Washington winning this series in 6 games. Our final bracket in the Eastern Conference is between Met 2, the Carolina Hurricanes, and Met 3, the New Jersey Devils. So far, 2 games have been played. Both have been won by the Hurricanes. So they won the first one 4-1 and the second one 3-1. So the Canes, again, one of these really, really strong defensive teams. You're not going to score a lot of goals on them. So it's going to be hard for the Devils to come back into the contest at this point against a very, very strong defensive Carolina Hurricanes team who have had the crowd behind them both nights of the playoffs. Great crowd down there at the Lenovo Center in Carolina. But this is a series I think the Devils definitely could come back right back into it and make a real scene of things if they can get ahead early and keep the crowd in it in their home games. And if we do, we should have at least 5. I'd say Canes win in 6, but they have to get ahead early and then lock down defensively. They can't allow themselves to score an early goal and then have, let the Canes run over them through the rest of the night. And it's not just the scoreboard, it's also the pressure in the front ice that the Carolina Hurricanes are dominating, especially when they do go on the power play. But we will have here the Eastern Conference that is done. Canes in 6 here. We'll now go straight into the Western Conference first round. The first game of the Western Conference is the Central 1. Winnipeg Jets, who won the President's Trophy with 116 points, and they're playing the number 2 wildcard out of the West, the St. Louis Blues. And I think the Blues, are a good team. They're a very, very strong team in their own right, but the Jets are just a mile ahead better than them. They've won both games on home ice very, very well. 5-3 in the first game, 2-1 in the second. They go back to St. Louis. I think maybe St. Louis takes game 3, but I think after that, game 4, the Jets will adjust and Winnipeg will take this one in 5. If they even get to 5, I think they will get it in 5, but the Jets, again, just miles ahead of where the Blues are at the moment. That's why we have the C1 and President's Trophy winners against the second wildcard team out of the West. Now, the next series is shaping up as one of the series to watch. It is currently 3 games played. Dallas leading 2 games to 1. As the Dallas Stars, after getting blown out in the first game by the Avalanche, losing game 1 5-1, they have won game 2 3-4 in overtime and game 3 2-1 in overtime. The big story in this one is the return to ice of Gabriel Landeskog, the captain of the Avalanche, who has been injured for the last two years and really 3 years. It's been nearly 3 years since we've seen him on ice, and he's come back in game 3 of this series, and he's hoping to turn this around and get the Avs over the line. I think that could happen. I think Avs do take this one in 6. Dallas, very strong team. They came in, they were above them in points in the season, 106 points to 102 points. But I just look at that Avalanche lineup. looking at guys like Natchez, looking at guys like McCarr, looking at guys like McKinnon, who are going to be steering the Avs, and Landeskog as well, steering the Avs over the Stars in the eventual time that we see the series develop. So I think that we take this one and we say this one will be the Avs in 6. We now continue down the list to our next game. We have the Vegas Golden Knights, the number 1 ranked team in the Pacific with 110 points, versus the first wildcard team, the Minnesota Wild. And this one is getting absolutely wild. First game was won by the Golden Knights 4-2. Second game was won by the Wild 5-2. So, there again, much like the Stars and the Avs, this is another series to keep your eye on, folks. This is a series I think could go 7. I'm going to say if we do go to 7 in any series in the first round, it will be the series between the Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. I mean, well, we have some tantalizing players on the ice. We have Jack Eichel on the ice. We have Matt Boldy on the ice. We have Kirill Kaprizov on the ice. Great players to watch. Very, very entertaining series to watch develop. It's 1-1 at the moment, and I'm calling this one to go all the way through to 7 games. We now have our final series of the first round of the Western Conference and of the 2025 NHL Playoffs. And it is the Edmonton Oilers, who are the 3rd ranked team in the Pacific, playing the Los Angeles Kings, who are the 2nd ranked team out of the Pacific. And the Kings are looking very, very good on offense. They have won both games with high scoring numbers. 6-5, then 6-2. The Kings looking very, very good. This might be the sweep. If we're saying that the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild series will go to 7, this one will be the sweep. Los Angeles, I am calling it now. They will be sweeping the Edmonton Oilers in the series. Edmonton just have not looked good defensively in the first 2 games. Offensively, they're a very, very strong team. Good lines, very good lines. But they just cannot keep the boat down defensively, and that is what's hurting them so far, and that's what's going to continue to hurt them in the series as we go forward. We will keep you updated with all the latest results from me on the BJ Show and the International Agenda. That has been your NHL Playoffs. Now it is time to discuss some results from world football. So we will have the Premier League, the EFL Championship, La Liga and the Bundesliga to cover tonight. We are going to start off our football coverage with some Premier League, and this might be the last time that I cover the Premier League before the season's end when we get the official table, and I'll run it through because top and bottom it is pretty much decided. So Arsenal just had a draw with Palace, leaving Liverpool 1 point away from the league title. At this point, it's all but done. It's over. Whether it's this week or next week, it's pretty much confirmed that it's done. Liverpool just needing 1 point from any of their games or another Arsenal loss or draw to confirm the title for them. Arsenal fell away again as expected. City's been up and down all year. Forest in 4th. Another strong team who's surprised a lot of people come up this year after being the relegation threat in the last couple of years. Newcastle's up there in 5th, Chelsea's up there in 6th, and that's your main European spots, with Villa hanging around in 7th. Then there is a big gap to the real mid-table of the Premier League this year. Down the bottom, the relegation zone, again, also already decided. So that will be Southampton going down. That's already been confirmed. Leicester going down. That's already been confirmed. And Ipswich Town, it's looking likely that will be confirmed, their relegation this week. And so, unfortunately, to fans of those clubs, you will be saying goodbye to the Premier League. And just like we are right now, we're going to be saying hello to the Football League Championship. The Football League Championship. here's how the league championship works and how we're going to cover it. The top 6 teams go into the playoff. Well, the top 2 teams are automatically qualified for the Premier League promotion no matter what. They are decided. They are going to be Leeds United and Burnley. They are tossing it up for the league title at the moment. Leeds currently holds the tiebreaker on goal difference, having a plus 14 goal difference to Burnley. Teams 3, 4, 5, and 6. So currently, Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol City, and Coventry are going to be in the promotion playoffs. They will be playing against one of the other teams. So it'll be 3v6, 4v5, and the winners of those games will play at Wembley to determine the 3rd playoff spot. As things stand now, I think that it is just a matter of time before we see Sunderland back in the Premier League. I would love to see Sunderland get into the Premier League. They are confirmed to be in the playoff. So I would love to see Sunderland back in the Premier League. Growing up, Sunderland were a mainstay for me when I was watching the Premier League. You know, big, pretty decent club in the 2000s. Definitely deserve to be back in the Premier League. So Sunderland should be back up there, and that is why, as well as, their form, not great. No, none of the teams who are in the top 6 are on really great form. I mean, Sheffield's lost 4 of their last 5. Southampton's lost 3 in a row. Bristol's really the team in form in that moment, winning 3 of their last 5. And Coventry's also had 2 losses, 2 wins and a draw in their last 5. Borough chasing, they've had 3 losses from their last 5. And Millwall again chasing as well. Very good. They're 4 from 5 in recent times. But I would love to see Sunderland back in the Premier League. We will now go out to Spain for some La Liga, where the league is still very, very much up for grabs between Barcelona and Real Madrid. So Barca currently leading by 4 points. 4 points is all Barcelona lead the La Liga by over Real Madrid. Real Madrid, both teams looking very, very good on form. Barca 4 from 5 with a draw. Madrid 4 from 5 with a loss. So this could go either way with 5 games to go. I think that Barca would pull through at this stage as we go slightly down the table. Atletico in 3rd, Athletic Club in 4th, Villarreal in 5th, Real Betis in 6th, and Celta de Vigo in 7th. Continuing on to our final destination in football for tonight, we go to the Bundesliga. Bayern have pretty much salted away the Bundesliga. Another one in the cabinet for the German Giants. They are 3 wins and 2 draws from their last 5, and they will be taking home the Bundesliga with their points gap nearly unassailable with 4 games to go. Leverkusen, very, very strong effort to get second after their brilliant year last year, but not on the level of Bayern this year. In 3rd, it's Eintracht Frankfurt. 4th, it's Leipzig. 5th, Freiburg, a team who are very up and down every year, but Freiburg currently in 5th. They are definitely still within a chance to get into that top 4, even with a negative goal difference. That would be something. A top 4 team with a negative goal difference. And then Mainz in 6th. The big one who slipped this year is Borussia Dortmund, who are in 7th with 4 games left in the Bundesliga. But that is all we have for football for tonight. We will get back to this after the results have wrapped up for European competition and for domestic competition as well. It is now time for some motorsports and to cover the Formula One Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix has come and gone, and there is some controversy about this one as Max Verstappen starting on pole, lost the position down the straight into the first corner of the race to Oscar Piastri and was deemed to have gained an advantage by leaving the track after squeezing Piastri and not making the corner in time to hit the apex or get outside of Piastri's car. So crossing the track, it was deemed that Max would get a 5-second time penalty. This is interesting because watching the race, it seemed like if Max and if Red Bull had simply said, hey, or Red Bull said to Max simply, hey, we might get a penalty for this, just give the place back, I think the race could have ended much differently than it actually did, and I'll get to the results in a minute. But because Red Bull decided that that was not what they planned to do, and they were going to take the 5-second stop-go on a pit stop, they ended up losing the race. So the race was won in the end there by Oscar Piastri, with Max coming home in second. Red Bull have challenged it, but it is very hard to overturn a decision after a race in these circumstances where the FIA has already said, that the penalty that they gave was 5 seconds instead of the usual 10 because of the race start circumstances. So what that now means is we're going to have a look at the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championships and see who's in the mix for both of them. So leading the drivers at the moment with 3 wins on the year, Oscar Piastri on 99 points. Second is his McLaren teammate Lando Norris. So this is going to get very interesting because both the McLaren drivers probably are going to be contending at the end of the year for the world title, and it's going to be, do we let them race or is there going to be a team orders put in play? Third place is Max. Max, ever hungry, ever dangerous, ever present. And that is probably going to be the 3 fighting it out for the drivers, the 2 McLarens, and Max will go down a little bit further. In 4th is George Russell from Mercedes. In 5th, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, and Antonelli 6th, Hamilton 7th, Albon 8th for Williams. We'll go down and have a look at the Constructors' Championships now, and it is McLaren leading the way, 188 points with 4 out of 5 wins on the year for McLaren. And again, the other driver with strong points finishes. Mercedes is already slipping back quite a bit. There's already 77 points the gap between Mercedes and McLaren. At the top of the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes 111 points. And then Red Bull on 89 points, struggling with that car, struggling with that second driver. So their second driver, start of the year being Liam Lawson, now Yuki Tsunoda. Their second driver's only managed to score 1 points finish, and Max hasn't been at the pointy end as much as he'd like, with the results of 2-4, a win in Japan, then 6-2, and a second in Saudi Arabia. Then it goes down to Ferrari. Both those cars, as I said previously on the show, were disqualified in China. They're on 78 points. And then Williams, and we go down from there into the smaller teams. So definitely a big 4 emerging there. McLaren looking like they're going to be running away with the Constructors by a mile. I will keep you updated with all the news from motorsport, as always, as we progress through the year. But that's all the motorsport we have for now. Now it is time to have a deep dive into the NBA playoffs.
Pulls up, 3-pointer. Bang!
Just like I did earlier in the episode with the NHL, I will go down each bracket for the NBA as well. So we're going to start out in the Eastern Conference with our first tie being between the Miami Heat, who came through the play-in, and the 1 rank in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is one, I think, that Cleveland, very, very strong team. 1 rank, I think, not as strong as some of the other teams in the playoffs, but definitely when you compare them to a Miami, I feel like Cleveland are that much better than them, and it's showing so far. They're up 2-0. I think maybe Miami gets 1 back, but This one I think goes Cleveland in 5. Without Jimmy Butler, he's on the Warriors now. Tyler Hero's good, Bam Adebayo's good, but they're not really competing at a level of Allen, Mobley, Spider Mitchell, Darius Garland, and the fellas down in the land. So Cleveland in that one, very strong in that matchup. They should take this one quite easily, probably in 5 games is my prediction. Our second matchup is between the Boston Celtics and the Orlando Magic. Boston have taken control of this series. I think Boston have learned from their in-season mistakes against Orlando and are going to be taking this one in a sweep. Boston, again, a very strong team. Probably are the real East one. And they are going to be one of those teams who dominate the playoffs. This is a warm-up round for them. No disrespect to the Magic, but Boston just far, far, far too good for them. And Celtics should go over quite easily with the talent they've assembled there. Our third setup series in the Eastern Conference is between the East 3 and the East 6, the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. Now, this is a series that I feel like could go either way. We know New York are a little bit sloppy when it comes to the playoffs, and Detroit are a young team, very much like the Montreal Canadiens in the NHL. They are a young team. They are a hungry team. They're a team who are looking for an opportunity to make a name for themselves and will live by the sword and die by the sword as they go along in the playoffs. Currently, the series is 1-1. Cade Cunningham pulling out all the stops to keep Detroit in the series against the guys down at the Knicks like Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges, as well as obviously Karl Anthony Towns, and that is a very, very strong team. And then you add in guys like Josh Hart as well to round out that Knicks roster. That is a very, very powerful team. But Detroit, they're young and hungry, and they don't know. Their playoff naivety as well could help them this year. I just think that sometimes teams, they go into the playoffs not knowing much about it, and they're either scared of the playoffs or they take it by the throat. And I think Detroit are a team who are going to take the playoffs by the throat and the pressure of the playoffs by the throat and really give it a fair go because they know nothing else. I mean, they're representing Detroit. They represent that city, and they represent that city by playing a Detroit style of basketball, which is what's really been needed down there. You've got to be tough, you've got to be gritty in Detroit, and that's exactly what they are, and they are not scared of any moment or anybody that will come in front of them. That being said, though, I think this series will go 6, and I think it will be New York winning this series in 6 games. And then we move down the Eastern Conference to the 4-seeded Pacers versus the 5-seeded Bucks. And this one is looking very, very Indiana at the moment. A very, very, very strong Indiana team. A team who I said previously on the show, you have to stop letting them get big numbers. If you allow them to get big numbers, you are going to be chasing your game all day. And both games so far, they've scored over 115 points. 117 in Game 1, backed by 123 in Game 2. To Milwaukee need to step up that defensive pressure, that defensive effort to get that number down, to get into this contest. Because we know, and I know very well, and I've said this quite a lot, that this Indiana team, you keep their scoring down, they will be in trouble. But you have to keep that down to put pressure on them because they know one way, and that is high offensive efficiency basketball with high scoring. As things stand, as I said, Indiana lead the series 2-0 at this point, and they look like they're probably going to take this one quite comfortably. This is probably going to be Indiana in 5. We will now go to the Western Conference, and we'll start with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Memphis Grizzlies. And I don't really want to stay here for too long. I think this one will be a sweep. Oklahoma City are a very, very, very strong team. Memphis losing Game 1 by 51. That's just not on in the playoffs. I saw an image of John Morant sitting on the bench smiling when they were down 51 points. That is not what you need to be doing in the playoffs. So with that said, we're not going to stay here for very long. We know OKC are going to be the better team in the end, barring any injuries, freak accidents, or the like happening there, and they will move on in a sweep. Our second ticket in the Western Conference is between the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, and this one is a very, very interesting tie, to say the least. Houston, another team who I think have that playoff naivety at their side, much like Detroit. Will they sink or swim? We don't know at this point. They are 1-1 with the Warriors. The Warriors, again, they came through the play-in, but they're probably, in actual seeding, probably a lot higher than that, with the acquisition of Jimmy Butler and Curry coming into form, Draymond doing Draymond things. So the Warriors probably going to take this one. Houston, again, very good team. I've liked them all year. Probably not the real two come play off time, but again, a very good team, led by Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün, as well as having role players like Amen Thompson and Fred VanVleet on the floor for them. So they have good players, but I just think the Warriors, their playoff experience, their numbers, their talent on the court will eventually just outshine Houston. So the Warriors will take this one in 6. We'll now keep going through the Western Conference to our next tie is the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 3 versus the 6, and it is currently 1-1. Minnesota taking game 1, the Lakers taking game 2. And this series is one that I think could be our 7-gamer. If there is a 7-gamer here, it would be this one. I think Minnesota are a very, very good team. When the Ant-Man is on, they are very hard to stop. They're very good defensively. They also have Julius Randle, who can either be hit or miss. The Lakers as well. You look at them. You look at LeBron. You look at Luka. That is a very, very powerful team when you put it on paper. But as we all know, sports aren't won on paper. They are won on the playing arena. And I think this is going to be a very, very tough, very, very tight contest throughout the whole series. And I am going to say this one will go the way of the Lakers in 7. So Lakers in 7 for that series. And we go to our final first round playoff for the NBA, and it is between the Denver Nuggets and Los Angeles Clippers. Nikola Jokic and the crew of Denver versus Kawhi Leonard and the Clips. Very, very, very entertaining series so far through 2 games. The first game, Denver took it in overtime. The second game, the Clippers won by 3 in the end to make it 1-1. Again, Denver having that home court advantage, but now that has probably shifted back to the Clips going home at 1-1. So this one's a very, very hard one to call. I like what Denver are doing. I think they're probably a little bit higher than a 4, even though they did fire their coach. I think that the Clippers eventually going to do Clippers things. I don't want to jinx it, but we know what the Clippers do in the playoffs, and it's not nice. It is not nice. It is a choking hazard out there in the Clip Town, the Intuit Dome in Englewood, California. So it is two teams playing, with different things going against them at this time. The Clippers' playoff record not good. Denver firing their coach a week before the playoffs started. Maybe they're looking for a little bit of a jolt in the system, but this could be a very tight one. In the end, though, I will say that I will take the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. So that is all I have for NBA action from the first round of the playoffs. Again, I will keep you up to date with all of this as series unfold, and we will see who comes out on top in the NBA come the end of the season. Finally, just before we end tonight's show, the NFL draft is beginning this week. It'll be happening over this coming weekend, and the first pick will be going to the Tennessee Titans. It's not official yet, but by all accounts and all reports, it's looking like it will be Cam Ward, the quarterback out of the University of Miami, the U. and he is looking like a very, very talented prospect for the Tennessee Titans to pick up at quarterback and get that franchise back to where it used to be, one of the real original franchises of the NFL. Multiple name changes, multiple different names, but again, one of the real traditionalist franchises of the NFL in the Tennessee Titans. But with that said, draft will start tomorrow morning, my time. So I will keep you updated with the NFL draft later on during the program at some point, either on the next episode or I'll have an NFL draft special coming out. I'll see how I go managing my time. But that is all I have for you for this episode of the International Agenda. As always, I've been your host, Aidan Barry, signing off. Thank you for listening.